I never imagined the day would come when my own son would look me straight in the eyes, the same eyes that once searched for me in the dark when he had nightmares, and say, "This is my house now, Mom. Not our house. Not your house too. Just his." And the worst part? He said it while standing in the living room I had paid for, the home I had cleaned, repaired, decorated, and filled with memories for nearly 40 years. But what he didn't realize, what none of them realized, was that this house held one secret that would change everything. My name is Margaret Collins. I'm 67 years old, a retired elementary school teacher from Cedar Ridge, Ohio. The kind of small American town where everyone waves at each other even if they don't remember your name. I spent most of my life believing in two things: hard work and family. Especially family. After my husband, Daniel, passed away 7 years ago from a sudden heart attack, this house became both my anchor and my sanctuary. We had bought it as newlyweds, a modest 2-story home with white siding, a crooked mailbox, and a maple tree in the front yard that Daniel swore he'd trim every year but never quite did. Every scratch on the hardwood floors told a story. The dent near the staircase from when my son Tyler tried to ride his toy truck indoors. The faded patch of carpet where Daniel's recliner used to sit. The kitchen window where I stood countless mornings packing school lunches and pretending I wasn't worried about bills. It wasn't just a house. It was my life. Tyler was my only child. When Daniel died, Tyler stepped in, or at least that's what I told everyone. He started visiting more often, fixing little things around the house, insisting I shouldn't climb ladders anymore. He brought groceries, installed brighter lights in the hallway, even set up a medical alert system, just in case. "You shouldn't be alone, Mom," he would say, squeezing my shoulder. I thought it was love. Then, about a year ago, he suggested moving in temporarily. "Just until we get back on our feet," he said. "Rent's insane right now." He meant himself, his wife Amanda, and their 2 kids. My grandkids. Of course I said yes. What kind of mother wouldn't? At first, it felt almost nice. Laughter in the house again. Footsteps on the stairs, cartoons playing in the morning. I cooked big dinners, helped with homework, folded laundry. I told myself this was a blessing, a second chance at having a full home. But slowly, quietly, things began to change. My favorite chair disappeared from the living room, replaced by Amanda's oversized sectional. The guest room where I kept Daniel's old books became Tyler's home office. Boxes of my belongings started appearing in the garage. "Oh, we're just making space," Amanda would say with a tight smile. Then came the kitchen. One afternoon, I opened the pantry to find all my labeled jars, flour, sugar, rice, shoved onto the top shelf where I couldn't reach them. The lower shelves were filled with Amanda's protein powders and organic snacks. I stood there on my tiptoes, feeling like a stranger in my own home. Still, I said nothing. I didn't want to cause tension. Families adjust, I told myself. But the real turning point came on a rainy Tuesday morning. I woke up early as always and shuffled into the kitchen to make coffee. Only this time, the coffee maker was gone. In its place sat a sleek stainless steel machine I didn't recognize. Amanda walked in behind me, already dressed for work. "Oh, we donated your old one," she said casually. "This one's better." Donated. Just like that. As if my things, my life, were clutter. I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. Of course. Later that same day, Tyler called a family meeting. We all sat in the living room, Amanda perched beside him, the kids whispering on the floor, me in the corner of the couch that used to be mine. Tyler cleared his throat like he was about to present something at work. "Mom, we need to talk about living arrangements." My stomach tightened. He explained how the kids needed stability, how the school district was good, how moving again would be disruptive. Amanda chimed in about property taxes, maintenance costs, and long-term planning. Then Tyler leaned forward, hands clasped. "We think it makes the most sense if we take over the house permanently." Take over. The words hung in the air like smoke. I blinked, waiting for the part where he'd say, "We'd all live here together as a family." But it never came. Instead, he added softly, almost apologetically, "You could get a nice little apartment. Something easier to manage." My ears rang. actually looked around, half expecting someone to laugh and say it was a joke. "This is my home," I whispered. Tyler's expression hardened in a way I had never seen before. "Mom, this is my house now." Amanda didn't correct him. She didn't look shocked. She just watched me, arms folded, as if waiting for my reaction. Something inside my chest cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, devastating fracture. I nodded slowly, stood up, and walked to the window. Outside, rain streaked down the glass, blurring the maple tree Daniel had planted. I could feel all of them watching me, waiting for tears, anger, resistance. But instead, I said the only thing I could manage. "I see." Because at that moment I understood something they didn't. They thought they had already won. They thought I was powerless. They thought this house was theirs for the taking. What they didn't know, what Tyler had completely forgotten, was that Daniel and I had made one decision decades ago that would soon turn their certainty into panic. And I was about to remind them. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was angry, although I suppose anger would have been easier. Anger burns hot and loud. What I felt was colder, heavier, like something. What I felt was colder, heavier, like something had settled over my chest and refused to move. I lay in the dark listening to the unfamiliar sounds of my own house. Amanda's dryer thumping downstairs at midnight. Tyler's deep voice murmuring on the phone behind the closed door of what used to be Daniel's study. Even the floorboards sounded different, as if they no longer recognized my footsteps. Around 3 a.m, I got up and went to the kitchen for water. The motion sensor light Tyler had installed flicked on instantly, bright, clinical, nothing like the warm yellow lamp I used to leave on overnight. I opened the cabinet for a glass and froze. My mugs were gone. Not broken. Not misplaced. Gone. In their place were matching gray cups with the words "Blessed Family" printed across them in white. Amanda's taste, not mine. My favorite blue mug, the one Daniel had given me on our 20th anniversary, had vanished without a trace. I stood there gripping the cabinet door, trying not to cry over something so small. But it wasn't small. It was proof. They weren't just living here. They were replacing me. The next morning, Tyler knocked on my bedroom door, the only room that still felt remotely mine. "Mom, you up?" I quickly wiped my face and opened it. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We're going to look at some apartments today. Thought you might want to come." "Apartments? Not if I wanted to move." "When?" "I'm not moving," I said quietly. His jaw tightened. "Mom, be reasonable." Reasonable? As if 40 years in a home could be negotiated like a cable bill. Amanda appeared behind him, arms crossed, her expression already impatient. "It's not safe for you to live alone anyway," she added. "You could fall. Or forget something on the stove." I had been managing just fine before they arrived, but I bit my tongue. Arguing would only make them push harder. "I'll think about it," I said, just to end the conversation. Tyler sighed dramatically, like I was a stubborn child. "Okay. But we can't wait forever." "We. Not you. Not Mom. Just we." After they left, I walked slowly through the house, room by room, as if seeing it for the last time. In the hallway, family photos had been rearranged. Pictures of Tyler's kids were front and center, while older photos, ones with Daniel and me, had been moved to the side table near the stairs, half hidden behind a lamp. In the dining room, my lace tablecloth had been replaced with a plastic runner covered in cartoon dinosaurs. And in the garage, that was where the truth hit hardest. Stacks of boxes labeled in Amanda's handwriting. "Amon. Old stuff. Donate. Trash." My hands trembled as I opened one. Inside were photo albums, Christmas ornaments, Daniel's tools, even the quilt my mother had sewn before she died. Old stuff. I sank onto a folding chair, clutching the quilt to my chest, breathing in the faint scent of cedar and memories. For the first time, tears came, silent, unstoppable. I wasn't just being pushed out. I was being erased. Later that afternoon, I overheard Tyler and Amanda arguing in the kitchen. They didn't know I was in the hallway. "She's dragging this out," Amanda whispered sharply. We can't finalize anything until she's out. Finalize what? Tyler lowered his voice, but I still caught the words. The realtor said as soon as the title situation is clear, we can move forward. Realtor. Title. My heart started pounding. They weren't planning to live here. They were planning to sell it. Suddenly, everything made sense. The urgency, the pressure, the sudden concern about my safety. They didn't want the house. They wanted the money. I stepped back quietly before they could see me, my mind racing. For years, Tyler had complained about debt, about student loans, about never being able to get ahead. Selling this house would solve all of that in one stroke. And they were counting on me to step aside, without a fight. That evening, Tyler approached me again, softer this time. Mom, we're just trying to do what's best for everyone. Everyone except me. I looked at him, really looked, searching for the little boy who used to run into my arms after school. For the teenager who cried when his dog died. For the young man who held my hand at Daniel's funeral. He wasn't gone, but he was buried under something I couldn't reach anymore. I know, I said gently. Relief flickered across his face, as if he thought I was finally giving in. I'll start making arrangements soon. Amanda smiled for the first time in days. But what they didn't realize was that my arrangements weren't what they expected. That night, after everyone went to bed, I opened the drawer of my nightstand and took out a small envelope, yellowed with age, Daniel's neat handwriting still visible across the front. Important documents, do not misplace. Inside was a copy of something Tyler clearly didn't remember, or perhaps never knew in the first place. A decision Daniel and I had made decades ago, back when we were young and cautious and determined to protect each other no matter what. I ran my fingers over the paper, feeling something unfamiliar rising in my chest. Not sadness. Not fear. Strength. For the first time since Tyler said those words, I allowed myself a small, quiet smile. Because if they wanted this house, they were about to learn exactly what it would cost them. The next morning, I woke up before dawn, not from anxiety this time, but from something steadier, sharper. Purpose. For weeks, I had felt like a ghost drifting through my own home, careful not to disturb anyone, careful not to take up space. But now, as I sat on the edge of my bed holding that old envelope in my hands, I realized something important. Ghosts don't win battles. Living people do. I dressed quietly, choosing one of my nicer blouses, the pale blue one Daniel always said made my eyes look brighter. Not because anyone would notice, but because I needed to remember who I was before all of this. Before being reduced to Mom, who was in the way. In the kitchen, Amanda glanced up from her phone as I poured myself coffee from the shiny machine I still didn't know how to use properly. You're up early, she said, sounding mildly surprised. I have some errands. I replied calmly. She frowned. Do you need Tyler to drive you? It wasn't concern. It was control. No, I said. I can manage. Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she said nothing more. Outside, the air was crisp, the sky just beginning to lighten. I hadn't driven into town alone in months. Tyler always insisted on taking me, saying traffic was too stressful. But as I pulled onto the familiar road, muscle memory took over. I wasn't fragile. I wasn't incapable. I was just underestimated. My destination wasn't the grocery store or pharmacy, like they probably assumed. It was a brick building on Main Street with a modest sign that read, Harrison and Cole, attorneys at law. Daniel and I had walked through those doors together more than 30 years ago, nervous and hopeful, when we first bought the house. Later, we returned after Tyler was born, wanting to get everything in order, the way responsible parents do. I wasn't sure if anyone from that time still worked there, but I was about to find out. Inside, the office smelled faintly of paper and coffee, exactly the same as I remembered. A young receptionist looked up and smiled politely. Can I help you? Yes, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I need to speak with someone about a property matter. Margaret Collins. She typed something into her computer, then her eyebrows lifted slightly. Oh, yes. One moment, please. A few minutes later, a tall man in his 40s appeared, adjusting his glasses. Mrs. Collins?
I'm David Cole.
My father handled many of your family's documents years ago. Relief washed through me. Someone who knew. He led me into a quiet office, and once we were seated, I slid the envelope across the desk. I believe this concerns my house, I said. He opened it carefully, scanning the document. As his eyes moved down the page, his expression shifted, first neutral, then surprised, then something close to understanding. Well, he said slowly, looking up at me, this certainly explains things. My heart pounded. So it's still valid? Absolutely, he replied. Very much so. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. Daniel had insisted on this arrangement back then, saying, "You never know what life will throw at us. Better to be safe." At the time, it had seemed overly cautious, almost unnecessary. Now it felt like he had reached across time to protect me. Mr. Cole leaned forward. Has someone challenged your ownership? I hesitated, then nodded. My son believes the house is defectively his now. A flicker of concern crossed his face. I see. Well, legally speaking, he has no authority whatsoever. In fact, he tapped the paper. This gives you complete control. More than most homeowners, actually. Complete control. The words settled into my bones like warmth. What are my options? I asked quietly. He explained them carefully, outlining paths I hadn't even considered. With each sentence, my shock slowly transformed into clarity, then into resolve. By the time I left the office, the sun was high in the sky, and my hands were no longer trembling. Back at the house, Tyler's car was already in the driveway. As soon as I stepped inside, I could feel the tension in the air. He was waiting in the living room, pacing. Where were you? He demanded. Amanda stood behind him, arms folded, eyes sharp. Out, I said simply, setting my purse down. Tyler ran a hand through his hair. Mom, you can't just disappear like that. We were worried. Worried or suspicious. I met his gaze calmly. I didn't realize I needed permission. That seemed to throw him off. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Amanda stepped in. We just need to coordinate things. Especially with the house situation. There it was again. The assumption that decisions were already made. I looked around the room, my room, at the furniture they had chosen, the decorations that weren't mine, the sense of ownership radiating from them. Then I said something that made both of them go very still. I agree, I said. We do need to talk about the house. Relief flashed across Tyler's face. He actually smiled. Good, he said. I'll call the realtor tomorrow. Oh, I replied softly. I don't think that will be necessary. His smile faded. What do you mean? I held his gaze, calm and unflinching. I said, there's something important about this house you should have asked about before deciding it was yours. Silence fell, thick, uneasy, charged with something neither of them could yet name. For the first time since this began, Tyler looked uncertain. And that uncertainty? It was only the beginning. Tyler stared at me as if I had suddenly started speaking a different language. What are you talking about? He asked slowly. Amanda's eyes narrowed. If this is about delaying things, Margaret, we really don't have time for. It's not a delay, I said quietly. It's information. I walked past them and sat down at the dining table, my dining table, though it no longer looked like it. For years, this had been the place where homework was done. Birthday candles were blown out. Bad news was softened with casseroles and good news celebrated with pie. Now it felt like a negotiation room. If you're going to make decisions about this house, I continued, you deserve to know the truth. Tyler pulled out a chair across from me, tension radiating from his shoulders. Amanda remained standing, arms crossed, as if she didn't want to appear vulnerable by sitting. Mom, Tyler said, his voice strained, just say it. I reached into my purse and placed a folded document on the table. He frowned. What's that? Something your father insisted on when we bought the house. At the mention of Daniel, Tyler's expression softened for a split second, then hardened again. He unfolded the paper, scanning the first few lines. Amanda leaned over his shoulder to read as well. At first, there was only confusion. Then Tyler's brow furrowed. Then his eyes widened. That can't be right, he said, looking up at me. This says. It says exactly what it's supposed to say, I replied calmly. Amanda grabbed the paper, reading faster, her lips moving silently. The color drained from her face. This is some kind of mistake, she snapped. No one does this. Your father did, I said gently. He wanted to make sure I would always be protected, no matter what happened. Tyler pushed back from the table, running both hands through his hair. So you're saying, he swallowed hard, we can't sell the house? Not without my permission, I said. And I'm not giving it. Amanda's composure cracked first. But we've already made plans, she burst out. We talked to a realtor, we looked at houses, She stopped herself, but it was too late. Tyler turned to her, stunned. Wait, you said those were just options. Her eyes darted away. They were, but we assumed. You assumed wrong, I said softly. The room fell silent again, but this time the silence was different. It wasn't heavy with their authority anymore. It was filled with uncertainty. Tyler sank back into his chair, staring at the document as if it might change if he looked long enough. Why didn't you tell me about this? He asked finally, his voice quieter, almost wounded. I held his gaze. You never asked, and that was the truth. Not once had he sat down and said, Mom, what do you want? Not once had he asked how I felt, what I needed, or whether I was okay. He had only told me what was going to happen. Amanda recovered faster than he did. Her expression sharpened, calculating. Well, she said coolly, even if we can't sell it right now, it still makes sense for us to stay here. The kids' school, Tyler's commute, and you said yourself you don't want to live alone. There it was, the pivot. If they couldn't take the house, they would simply keep control of it. I folded my hands on the table. I never said you had to leave today, I replied. But this house is not yours. And it never will be unless I choose otherwise. Tyler looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. So, we can still work something out? For a moment, I saw the boy he used to be, scared, uncertain, wanting reassurance. But then I remembered the boxes in the garage, the missing mugs, the family meeting. The words, this is my house now. Yes, I said slowly. We can work something out. Amanda leaned forward. Good. Because we really need stability right now. I met her gaze, steady and calm. But it won't be what you expected. Tyler's shoulders tensed again. What does that mean? It meant I had spent decades sacrificing, accommodating, putting everyone else first. It meant I had nearly allowed myself to be pushed out of my own life because I didn't want to make waves. It meant that was over. I've decided, I said, that it's time this house became peaceful again. Amanda frowned. It is peaceful. I shook my head gently. No. It's tense. It's crowded. It doesn't feel like home anymore. Tyler's voice was barely above a whisper. Mom, what are you saying? I took a deep breath, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to say it clearly, kindly, without anger. I'm saying, I told him, that you and your family will need to find another place to live. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Amanda's mouth fell open. You can't be serious. I am. Tyler looked like he'd been punched. You're kicking us out? I'm giving you time, I corrected gently. More time than you were planning to give me. His face crumpled, not with rage, but with disbelief. But we're your family. Tears stung my eyes, but I didn't look away. Yes, I said softly. You are. And that's why this hurts so much. Amanda slammed her hand on the table. This is unbelievable. After everything we've done for you. For me? I repeated quietly. Memories flashed through my mind, cooking for them, cleaning for them, giving up space, giving up comfort, giving up dignity. I didn't realize kindness came with a bill, I said. Tyler stood abruptly, pacing just as he had earlier. Only now the confidence was gone. Panic was creeping in. Mom, we can't just leave. We don't have anywhere to go. I thought of the apartment brochures they had brought home for me. You'll figure something out, I said gently. You're strong. You're capable. The same words he had used on me. For the first time since this began, Tyler looked small. Not physically. He was still a grown man, but emotionally, like a child who had suddenly discovered the world wasn't arranged for his comfort. "Please," he said hoarsely, "don't do this." My heart twisted painfully. Every instinct in me wanted to take it back, to hug him, to say everything would be okay. But love without boundaries isn't love. It's surrender. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I said. "I'm doing this to save myself." Amanda pulled Tyler toward the hallway, whispering urgently, her voice sharp with anger and fear. He went with her, glancing back at me like he didn't recognize the woman sitting at the table. Maybe he didn't.